think we came in about 1944 or something like that. And my father managed a farm, and everything was so different in those days. I mean, how farms were owned, how land was owned, who was employed on the farm, and it was really entirely different. And relationships with neighbours and knowledge. So we lived up Highway 1 on a farm called Beulah, and then of course when we were older we were back to school and we went to Bull School. So I grew up here, and then I trained as a teacher. I was a foundation member at Palmerston, and taught for a while in all sorts of schools, and then went overseas twice. And I think the second time I met my husband, and then he came back here, I'm not quite sure, about 60 years ago, quite a while. Yeah, so I grew up, and then we lived for years in the Manawatu. About 30 years, I think I taught at Manchester Street, which was a wonderful school. And we moved to Bull soon after. So we've been here since 2001. And I was used to sort of leading things and being energetic through my work life. So somehow I think I heard some of these dissatisfied people. Well, I did actually. There was some lady in Martin in the news, and everything was wrong in Martin. I thought, well, I'd look into that. And that led to going on the House Board, and I was part of I was the rural representative on the DHB. Yeah, and then I got out of that, and then I sort of concentrated more around here. And I got to know heaps of different people that did things. And I keep phoning people that can help, either me or other people or our community large. And then I sort of got to the smaller, and I found some lady that had bags of money, and it was called community employment. And so you created a job and they gave you a lot of money. And then about the same time we formed the trust. And one of the trust members, Amara Davey, said, that's my cousin. So we tapped the cousin and said, Bulls, we can do this. I consciously thought of stakeholders, rural, professional, property owners, and Bulls, business owners. So tried to have in professional, so we had a vet, Maori people from the marae, and a lady who owned a lot of property in Bulls, and Central House Movers had sort of moved to town, and I could see that was a very large, very successful sort of good for the town business. And we talked with doctors and people that you knew were very important in the town. So the trust was, those people. And the council were very good, I must say. I think I always worked with them because I also got going down the river. I was down there one day and I saw a guy planting flax, that's right. And I said, what are you doing? Because his property was going down to the river. And he said, I just thought it'd be nice for the environment if I planted flax. And then I found two old guys, and they were taking all the sort of old man's beard stuff and out of trees to let little natives that they'd grown in pots in their own gardens, sort of thing, or in glass houses. And somehow the lions came into it too. And so the lions ended up chopping down massive pines that were by them, and they sold the firewood, and everyone was happy. And another thing I did, I can't remember the precise order, but one day I went down to the domain and there were these kids all chopping up the ground and having a lot of fun and using their skateboards. And some people were saying, these kids in town with their skateboards. And I could see them doing that. And I found a guy in Taranaki who was a surfer, but he was great designer of skateboard parks. So he came down and he designed it, and I can't remember who built it, but someone built it for next to nothing, and the Lions paid a bit of something, and so we built the skate park. So I think one of my aunts, when I was very young, said she's very self-confident, isn't she? And I guess you have to be, you don't try and be rude or nasty or push. I think you try and be reasonable. And if you're reasonable, you can't do better. Well, different people will have different views. And if you're doing stuff, that was another thing with other people's money. The trust, I was very conscious that they were all people that would regard it as precious, and to get other people's money, you had to say clearly what you were going to do. And if they checked, you need to have done precisely what you said. And my feeling was also that I knew other towns were getting the stuff. And I thought, well, Bulls, we need our share. We don't want more than our share, but we need our share of health or whatever was going, or council time or council money or whatever. Well, the minute she rang me, I thought, that's pretty humbling, because you don't do it to be recognised. And in some ways, it's not something you look for at all, and I'm not super comfortable with. But I mean, I just feel I respect Andy, and I respect if he's made a decision that I need to accept that and behave accordingly. So, yeah, and also I think probably I was fortunate that there are some very, very good people in our community. There have been on the council, and there have been that give their time, and I mean, it's they who do all the stuff. I just need to be the encourager or the connector or the whatever.